Virginia's gerrymandering if it passes. And to be clear, I'm not sure it's going to pass. This is going to be pretty close, I think. And also, even if it does pass, the Virginia Supreme Court is going to consider some issues raised by the Republicans, at least one of which I think has some merit. So this may not happen, even if it happens, if you catch my drift. But if it does go through, it's going to do some pretty interesting things to Virginia politics and, of course, have national impact. But first, this is expensive and wasteful. We shouldn't have to be doing this. And we wouldn't be doing it except for what happened in Texas, what's likely to happen in Florida and in a few other states, where for the first time in US history, a president told his party at the state level to rig the election, to gerrymander in the middle of a decade, which has only really happened once in American politics before, when Tom DeLay of Texas forced his state to do. So we're spending millions of dollars in Virginia. We're spending, the state's spending millions of dollars holding the election, and both sides are spending millions talking to voters. Voters are having to take time out of their lives to do it. We shouldn't be doing this. And we also shouldn't be doing it because gerrymandering is terrible. It's one of the worst things about American politics. And Trump is making a lot of people who hate gerrymandering, like me, vote for it. Second effect is what the Democrats are doing it for. It will make it harder for the Republicans to hold on to the House in the 2026 elections in November. And it's just a given. If you take away 4 seats, it gets to be an even higher mountain for the Republicans to climb to hold on to their majority. Not impossible, but given the way the trend lines are going, this could be the nail in their coffin. Third effect, no one's really talking about. It changes representation in Virginia in a weird way. If you look at the map, 5 of these districts more or less snake into Northern Virginia, which is the blue home of the Democratic Party in Virginia. Not that there aren't Democrats in the rest of the state, it's just the margins, the population size of Northern Virginia just dominates the rest of the state's Democrats. So what we're going to create are districts that are partially Alexandria, partially rural, partially Arlington, partially rural, Fairfax and rural. It used to be Fairfax had a lot of rural, doesn't have much anymore. And this represents a real opportunity for the Democratic Party where they could start to have representatives who speak rural. And Democrats haven't had a lot of those. Mark Warner, the senator, got some good turnout in rural Virginia when he first ran for governor and for senator. That's dropped off a bit. And there have been other Virginia Democrats who had support in rural areas, but fewer and fewer over the years. And this is a national problem for the Democrats. So maybe if the Democrats in these districts become people who speak rural English and speak to the concerns of rural America, a lot of smart people who do democratic analysis say that's been a real hole in the Democrats' ability. And it would revolutionize American politics if we go back to an America where South Dakota sometimes sent a Democrat, or for many years, just Democrats to the Congress, and so with many other rural states. It could also hurt the Democrats. It could create seething resentment in rural Virginia. It's already doing that against the Democrats and deepen the divide. So that's a real hard issue for the Democrats and a real opportunity for the Republicans to exploit. Fourth, and I haven't heard anyone talk about this, it sets up a weird world for the people who win. Whether they're incumbents or not, they're going to be in a district that is almost guaranteed to shift in 2032. So normal redistricting happens after the census, and the census says, hey, you lost population, you gained population, here's the number of seats. And since the Supreme Court said mathematical equality was guaranteed in the Constitution, in the Baker v. Carr case and the subsequent decisions, states have to create districts that are roughly equal in population. And so they draw new lines. Well, in Virginia, if this passes, we will have the most partisan districting in Virginia history for the years 2026 to 2030. And then in 2032, we go back to a bipartisan commission, which is going to draw very different lines. And so the entire time they're in office, they're going to be thinking, what's it going to look like? where am I going to live? Am I going to be drawn into a district where there's another incumbent of my party or of the opposite party? And so, in a strange way, these seats are worth less than normal Virginia congressional districts. Because historically, say the last 50, 60 years, Virginia's had an incumbency protection rough agreement between the Republicans and Democrats. Now, every now and then that gets pushed on the edges. The Republicans doing a little more of that than the Democrats. But Democrats and Republicans have usually agreed that let's keep the incumbents we have. It's an old Southern strategy back to the days when the South was a one-party state. The South was poor. It was weak. It didn't have a lot of national influence because it had rebelled. But what they learned is that if you only have one party, the longer you have incumbents, the more power you get in the Senate and the House. So they would just reelect and reelect and reelect. So Virginia played that game for a long time. But this time, that's not the case. These seats will almost certainly change after just a couple of years in office, and that makes them less valuable. And the final effect is maybe the worst for Virginia. Well, if the Democrats do this in Virginia, I think the national effects will be good. The state impact is going to be awful. First of all, gerrymandering is wrong. It sucks. It's like using a really ugly tactic in war, like chemical weapons. If the other side uses chemical weapons, as in World War I, you almost feel that if you don't use it, you are unilaterally disarming. And so that's sort of how I feel about gerrymandering. And it will enrage Republicans at the mass and the elite level even further if this goes through, because it is desperately unfair. It's packing as many rural Republican areas into one giant district with almost no urban areas at all. It's huge. And then cracking all the others into mostly blue districts. So it's clearly unfair. And it asks us to ponder what will happen the next time Republicans take Richmond, because it's inevitable that they will. If you look at the last, say, 40 years of Virginia politics, sometimes it trends a little red, sometimes it trends a little blue, but it's a purple state. And what that means is, at the state level, the Republicans are almost guaranteed to eventually be in charge of Richmond, usually with both chambers and a governor. And when that day does come, what will they do to the Constitution? What will they do to congressional districts? What will they do to the Democrats? Because what the Democrats are teaching them, reluctantly, is that if you control all three elected branches, the Senate, the House of Delegates, and the governorship, you can change the Constitution pretty quickly and pretty dramatically if you get the voters to go along with it. And so the well is being poisoned even further in Virginia politics, and that's a bad thing. Now, like many bad things in American politics, it's ultimately Trump's fault. It's a symbol of what he does to us. He divides us, he coarsens our discourse, he weakens our institutions, but that's not the way Republicans are going to see it. They're going to see it as Virginia Democrats doing this to them, and there will be payback, and that will not be good. That's how I see it. 5 effects of gerrymandering in Virginia. And thanks for watching.